guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 2, Unit 1 through 6 and 9.3 review. Make sure to show all of your work on the paper provided. Let's get to work. Now, I've already written a couple of notes down for the first problem, for steps that we need to do. When you're solving an equation like this, you always want to make sure to distribute, combine like terms first, move the variable to the left side, and then use SADMAP to help you solve. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take whatever is outside, and that's what we're going to distribute. So we're going to get 10m minus 15. And now this is where you really need to pay attention to what you're distributing. Here we're distributing a negative 1. So that changes to negative 4m minus 5. Okay? Now, the next step, we would want to make sure to combine our like terms. So we have 10m minus 15 equals 5m minus 5. So I am all done. Let's move these over so I can, or not. I guess I don't get to use any of those colors. So now I got to get my variable to one side, and that is the left side. So I'm going to subtract the 5m. We're left with 5m minus 15 equals negative 5. Now this is where we start going into step number 3, which is using SADMAP. Okay, so I'm going to add 15 to both sides. 5m equals 10. Divide by 5. And you get m equals 2. Okay? Alrighty. So 2 says to write the slope-intercept equation of the line through the points negative 2, 1 and 8, 11. So for those are the steps that we're going to do. So the first thing we need to do is to find the slope. So using that formula, we know m equals, I'm just going to put my subtraction sign right away. The y's go on the top, and the x's go on the bottom. So 1 minus 11 is negative 10, and negative 2 minus 8 is 10. And now when we reduce that fraction, we get our slope is 1. So now we know what the slope is, we're going to use the formula to solve. Okay, we know that the slope is 1 because that's what we just solved for. And now we can use either point, and I'm going to use 2, negative 1. So the negative 2 goes with the x, and that changes to a positive, and the 1 comes up front. So distribute, you get y minus 1 equals 1x plus 2. And now to get the x by itself, or the y by itself, I apologize, you add 1 to both sides. Y equals x plus 3. Alright. Now, solve the following system by graphing. So when you're graphing, key things that you need to remember. Can I scroll this down a little bit? Oh, it's going to make me go all the way over here. Or not. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Alright, sorry about that. So when we're graphing, you need to have y equals mx plus b, where that is your slope, and that's the y-intercept. Okay? So, our first equation right here, the 2x plus 3y equals 3, is it's not in slope-intercept form. Okay, so I'm going to subtract the 2x to both sides, and we get 3y equals negative 2x plus 3. So I'm going to divide everything by 3. Those cancel, so we're left with y equals negative 2 out of 3x plus 1. Okay, and now we know that our slope is negative 2 over 3, which tells me I have to go down 2 to the right 3. And b is 1, so that's where we have to start. And I'm going to go down 2 over 3, down 2 over 3. Okay, and do that in both directions. And once you've got that, you can draw your line. Now, the nice thing about our second equation is we already know that the slope is 1/3 and the b is negative 2. So I'm going to start at negative 2. I'm going to go up 1 over 3. I find out where they meet right away. So all I need to worry about now is just drawing that line. I want to know where those 2 points, or those 2 lines intersect. And that's where they intersect. It's at the point 3, negative 1. Okay? Alright, so for number 4, I want you to start this by yourself, okay? So what you're going to start, is you're going to start by graphing it, okay? Get the y by itself, and then graph, and then I'll come back and we'll go through everything. All right, go ahead and pause the video, and good luck. Okay, so there's the work for solving both of those equations. And now, after you draw the lines, they don't intersect, okay? And that's because right there we have parallel lines, okay? Parallel lines have the same slope, but they have different y-intercepts. So my answer for this is actually no solution. Okay? All right. Substitution. When we're doing substitution, we really need to pay attention what's by itself and then where you can plug it in. So I'm going to plug in everything that y is into my second equation. So y is 3x plus 10. And then just like our previous example, we're going to substitute. Combine your like terms. And that's just 1x. And now solve. So I'm going to subtract the 20. And you get that x equals negative 6. And we're not done yet because we also need to know what y is. And all we have to do is plug in negative 6. So we get negative 18 plus 10, and we find out that y equals negative 8. So our final answer is negative 6, negative 8. That's where those 2 lines intersect. Okay? So I want you guys to do number 6. And just in case you need a little bit of help, x is by itself, and that's what you're plugging in. So go ahead and pause the video and see how you do. Okay, I want to look at this point right here. Now, when you combine your like terms, those guys cancel, and you're left with 2 equals 8. Is that a true statement or a false statement? Well, I can't hear you, but hopefully you're saying that that's a false statement. Okay, so since that is a false statement, these lines do not intersect. Okay? Okay. Let's look at number 7. Solve the system by using elimination. I want to make sure that all of my variables are lined up, which they are. So now I want to cancel out the x's because they're opposite symbols. So I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by 4 so they cross out completely. I'm going to rewrite the top. And now when I start multiplying everything out, we add everything up, those cancel, and we're left with 32y equals negative 32. To complete solving for y, we have to divide both sides by 32, and we find out that y equals negative 1. Okay? And now let's plug it in. You can plug it into any of the equations. I'm actually going to use the top one because I think it's just a little bit easier. And we're going to plug in negative 1. So we get 4x minus 12 equals 4. And now I'm just using SADMAP to solve. Divide by 4. And we get x equal to 4. So my final answer for this one is 4, negative 1. All right, number 8. Once again, on your own, see if you can figure out which variable you want to cancel, and then go ahead and complete the problem. Good luck. So I chose that I was going to cancel out the x's, and then when I multiplied everything out, what happens? My x's and the y's cancel, so I'm left with 0, but then my right side, that also cancels out and equals to 0. So when something like that happens, it means that our answer is infinite solutions. All right, number 9. When we're reading our word problems, we need to clearly define what our x's and y's are. And the way we've always done it is whatever is first, that's what x is. So scarves and belts. Each one of these is an equation, okay? So for Tori, she bought 3 scarves and a belt, and that equals $105. Liz bought 2 scarves and 2 belts for $98. So now what we want to do is they ask us to find the cost of the scarf and the belt. So to do this, we need to do elimination because that's going to be the easiest, and we can eliminate the y's right away if we multiply the top equation by negative 2. So when we do that, we get negative 6x minus 2y equals negative 210, which is good because our y's cancel right away. And then we're left with negative 4x equals, if you don't know this, you're doing 210 minus 98. You get 2, you have to borrow, and you drop the 1. And that's a negative 112. But you're not done yet, because now I need to figure out what x is, so I have to divide both by -4. Those cancel. 112 divided by 4, 4 goes into 11 2 times. Subtract and bring down the 2. And then 4 goes into 32, 8 times. So we get that x equals 28. So now that we know what x is, we have to find out what y is. To do that, I'm going to plug it into the second equation. So 2 times 28 plus 2y equals 98. 2 times 28 is 56. Subtract both sides by 56. And you get 2y equals 42. Divide both sides by 2. And we get that y equals 21. Okay, so the final answer, they want to know the cost of everything. Okay, so a scarf equals $28 and a belt equals 21. Okay, number 10. Maya baked 16 more cupcakes than Alfredo. If they made 58 total, how many did Maya bake? So M is for Maya. A is going to be for Alfredo. Now the same thing, each sentence is pretty much an equation. So our first one, Maya, she baked 16 more than, which is add, but more than actually tells us we have to switch the order of those two. And now they said they both made 58, which means if you add the two of theirs together, they made 58. Okay, now take a look. I have a variable all by itself, and I can plug in, which means we're using substitution. So a plus 16 plus a equals 58. I want to see if you can go through and solve the rest of this all by yourself, so go ahead and pause the video and try it out. Okay, and there's the rest of the work. Your final answer is Maya, because she baked 37 cupcakes. Okay, once you find what Alfredo did, then you have to plug it back into one of the original equations. All right, number 11 says to use substitution to determine whether -2, 3, and 1 is the solution to all of those systems right there. So just remember which one is your x, which one is your y, and which one is your z. So I will do the first one for you. Whoops, minus 7 equals -6. So this is what we're trying to find out. So I'm plugging in -2, 3, and 1. So we get -8 plus 9 minus 7 equals -6. I'm actually going to combine my like terms right there. And we get 9 minus 17, right? Oh, not 17, that's 15. 8 plus 7, come on, Mr. Grice. And then when you combine those, you get -6 equals -6, and we're happy. So it's got to work for all three. The next two are on your own, okay? Pause the video, try them out. Okay, and there's all the work. So is this a solution? Yes, it is. Okay. All right. Now, number 12 is asking you to graph. when you're graphing right now, you're doing the same thing where you're getting the y by itself. So what I want you to do is to solve for y for the first equation, and then when you come back, you're going to see a couple of notes to help us know what we need to do, okay? Okay, so there's a couple of things off to the side of the right to help us know how to shade and how to graph. So for my first one over here, I'm going to shade below because it's less than. It's going to be solid. And then we also need to know that our slope is 1 and that the y-intercept is 1. So starting at 1, it's just going to go 1 over 1. Okay, so you kind of get the gist of it. A solid line. And now, just know that all of that's where we should shade. And we don't want to do a full shading yet, okay? Now, our next one is already done. We know our slope is -1/2. We're starting at 4. I need to shade above. And this is actually going to be dashed, okay? It's dashed because of, remember, it's the symbols that tell us what we have to do. So at +4, I'm open, and I'm just following the slope, making sure that each one of those dots is open. And if you want to put the little dashes in between, this one's kind of harder because the dots are so close together. Make sure you have the arrows. And for here, we're supposed to shade above. And what I care about is where they both intersect, which is going to be that little corner right there. So this is what our answer is. Okay? All right. Number 13 says to evaluate. And all we have to do here, guys, is just plug it in. Okay? We just have to be very careful of our symbols and our signs. Okay? So x is -1, y is -7, and -1. -1 squared, or -1 times -1, is +1, -7, and then -1 to the third power is actually -1. When you combine 1 minus 7 minus 1 all together, you should get -7. Okay. Now, for 14, remember that this is our divisor, and up top is the dividend. So when you go through to set this up, let's just do it right down here. So we've got 16x squared. Oh, what am I forgetting to do right now? Any of you guys know? I'm going to get a fresh sheet real quick. So let's shade this down. You have to make sure that it's in standard form, okay? So there's my 3x plus 2. That's what I'm dividing everything out. And I have to make sure the highest exponent goes first, then the 16, then the 13, and the 6. Okay, so how many times does the 3x go into 15x squared? And what you're thinking is 3x times what gives us 15x cubed? And you should be saying, Mr. Grice, that's 5x squared. Because when that happens, you get 15x cubed, and then 5 times 2 is 10x squared. And now what we're doing right here is we are subtracting those. So that cancels. You're actually subtracting that. And then you're going to get a 6x squared and drop the 13x. Okay? So now, how many times does 3 go into the x, or the 6x? So 3x times what gives you 6x squared? Well, should be saying, Mr. Grice, it's 2x. And that's correct, because when you multiply that out, you get 6x squared plus 6x. Remember, once again, we're subtracting, so those cancel. That's subtraction right there. Oh, that's not 6. I'm doing this too fast in my head. That should be a 4. Okay, because we get 9x plus 6. So now you're thinking 3x times what gives us 9x? You're saying it's 3. So then we get 9x plus 6. You subtract those, and those actually cancel out. So your answer is 5x squared plus 2x plus 3. Okay? And I'm going to write right here, watch video for work. That's going to be for this one and this one. Okay? Now, for number 15, you can do two different things. You can do synthetic division, or you can do it long division. So I'm going to go through the synthetic division, and I'll just have the answer up, the work for the long division. So we can do synthetic division because the leading coefficient is 1. I want the opposite of 4, and that is negative 4. And then I want just the coefficients, which is 10, 2, 3, and negative 20. We drop down the 2. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And then you bring down the 2. Now you're doing negative 4 once again times 2 is negative 8. And you get negative 5. In the very end, you're doing negative 5 times negative 4, which is positive 20, which gives you 0. So then that's where we get 2x squared plus 2x minus 5 is your answer by using synthetic division. Okay? Now, if you want to try it the other way, x plus 4, and then do 2x cubed plus 10x squared plus 3x minus 20. Go ahead and pause the video, try it out, and I'll have the answer for that. Good luck. All right, and there's all the work for that, which, oh, guess what? We got the same thing. So the answer to this is 2x squared plus 2x minus 5. Okay, and that's it. So if you have any other questions on the review, make sure to come and talk to Ms. Carranza or myself. Otherwise, that's it for Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Chapter 1 through 6 and 9.3 review. Good luck on your test, and as always, thanks for watching.